I would love to thank the board of directors of the Santa Barbara Film Festival for their support, and you already thanked our 600 volunteers, but let's do it again. Thank you to all of them. We started this panel 23 years ago, and I was just reminiscing with the remarkable Madeline Hammond, who's been hosting this for 23 years. That first year we did it, there was 11 people in the audience. So it is wonderful to see this incredible crowd today. Let's get on with it. Please welcome Ashley Schlafer, producer of the Oscar-nominated Best Picture Train Dreams. Alisa Payne, producer of the Oscar-nominated Best Documentary, The Perfect Neighbor. Natalie Mustiata, director of the Oscar-nominated short, Two People Exchanging Saliva. Yvette Marino, producer of the Oscar-nominated Best Animated Feature, Zootopia 2. Laia Casanovas, who's nominated for sound design for the film Surat. And Miyako Belize, who's Oscar nominated for her costume designs for Marty Supreme. And you're in incredible hands, moderator Madeline Hammond. She's the head of Madeline Hammond and Associates and an incredible friend of the film festival. Enjoy, everybody.
"11 people. I remember that, you know, but that's okay. It didn't matter. We had a blast, and we're having a blast now. Thank you for being here early on a Saturday morning, and thank you all for driving up and being part of the panel. I'm so happy to, hold on, I'm gonna get situated in this. Lovely, let's do a plug for UGG. What a comfortable chair this is, right?
Very comfortable.
Great chair.
Nice chair. I think we get to take them with us when we're done.
Great.
I don't know. Anyway, I'm gonna get right into it because we've got the best panelists this year. All right, I'm gonna start with Yvette. Show of hands, or yell out, how many people here had a chance to see Zootopia 2? Well, I'm not surprised because it is the single largest grossing animated film in history. Yeah? And I want to just pause on that for just a second. That's kind of amazing. When that happened and you saw that statistic, how did you and the team, because it's very much a team effort there with the Zootopia folks, did you guys, cupcakes, champagne, a watch? How did you celebrate?
A watch. I would like a watch. Yes, it's one of those things that was pretty mind-blowing. We work on these films. We have a team of artists at Disney Animation. We work on them for about 4 or 5 years. And we finish them and put them out to the world, and we hope someone connects with them. We hope they connect with people. So watching the success of the film has been amazing because it really just means all of the artists that worked day in and day out and put everything into it got their work is being seen and appreciated. And I don't use that mind-blown emoji often, but I've used it so many times over the last month because it really is incredible. It's not something we ever thought, or I ever thought could happen. And there was, in the studio, I'm fortunate to work at Disney Animation where everybody works on the same film. So there were cupcakes and a lot of champagne that day. I don't think we got much work done the rest of the day.
Yeah, wouldn't you hate to be the person saying, guys, we have a Zoom meeting, and you're like, what? We're the biggest grossing film, we're not gonna do a Zoom. Well, heartiest congratulations to you.
Thank you very
Well deserved.
much. Thank you.
So while we're talking about Zootopia, I want to ask you just a few more questions about it. Animation's a long process. It takes how many years did this Zootopia 2 take before it was funded?
It took about 5 years.
Okay. And how is it, as a producer, how do you keep the morale high? How do you keep that creative vision intact? What do you do when you just realize something might be going off the rails? How do you pull it back together?
Yeah, I think that's a big part of kind of what we focus on. Very early on, the directors, Jared Bush and Byron Howard, and I sat down, and we talked about the kind of community we wanted to build while we were making this film. And we talked a lot to our supervisors of all the different departments, and we knew that making any film is difficult, and it's always trying, and it's always super, super stressful. So we knew all that was going to come, but we wanted to have fun doing it. And so really different ways of making sure that we celebrate the wins, and there are a lot of struggles and failures or learnings, I want to say, along the way that happen as we iterate on the story and try to find what the right story is. But we want to make sure that we celebrate the wins and celebrate the artists and the artistry that went into it.
And I noticed you're in the green room. Your beautiful family is here.
They are.
Do you like to shout out to your kids? Do you run stuff by them? Or are you like, is this funny? Is this working?
Sometimes they see it, at night when I'm on, I'm on the laptop and looking at things. My kids are the biggest critics there. My 16-year-old son, when he saw the film, he's like, oh, it's cool, which is high praise from him, I think. And then my daughter, Noemi, has fun and always has notes and thoughts on it.
That's so great. Hey, talk about the casting. It is the most amazing cast. I'm just going to throw out a few names, but there's so many more. Jennifer Goodwin, Jason Bateman, Kihi Kwan, Fortune Feimster, Josh God, even Dwayne Johnson. I mean,
yes.
How does this come about?
It was one of those things we didn't sit at the beginning and said, oh, we're going to cast this with everyone. But the world of Zootopia allows so much variety and difference in casting because it's a world of animals and we're not tied to, we're tied to an elephant or a hippo or whatever it is. And so what we did is we called a lot of our friends back from Moana. Jared and I worked on the original Moana together, and we worked on Moana 2 together. And so, we called, Dwayne Johnson, Ali'i Carvalho, Rachel House, David Fane to all come back and kind of do a line. And everybody was willing. People knew the world of Zootopia, and so, people were asking to get in. But we had people, Michael J. Fox play Michael J. the Fox. It was great name calling there. And, of course, the favorite one was we had Bob Iger come in, and he played Bob Tiger, the weather person. There's nothing like getting the CEO of the whole company standing in front of a mic and having the directors direct him and say, do it again this way. But it was a lot of fun.
That's really great. So you mentioned Moana, and I wanted to bring that up because you worked on the first Zootopia, Moana 2. Is it more challenging when you're producing a sequel because the pressure's high and it was such a beloved property? How do you approach it?
Yeah, I think it is challenging. I think there are some things that come along with it. We know the world that we've created. We know our main characters. But I think it brings, when we wanted to continue the story of Judy and Nick and make the sequel, and one of the things that we made sure we did different on this film, part of our process at Disney Animation is the script will be written. We have our story team that sketches out everything. We cut it together, and we watch the whole film in story reels over and over again, about 5 or 6 times. And what we did is we invited the entire studio. There are about 1,200 people at Disney Animation. We invited the entire studio to see the film, and we asked them for feedback. So they sent in their notes, and they told us what worked and what didn't work, and if they were connected to new characters, and if they weren't connected and they didn't understand things. And so we did that each time that we screened. And so the great thing about Disney Animation, a lot of us have worked there for a very long time, so we're a very tight-knit community, and they like to tell us the absolute truth. So they will tell us definitely when things weren't working. And so that's how we made sure that we weren't kind of working in our own little bubble, as we invited all of the employees of Disney Animation to kind of come in and watch it, give us notes, because they aren't in it day to day. And this is everybody from the crew, of course, but also our operations team, our HR team, our finance team, because we all go to the movies and we all like stories, so.
That's really great. And you get that honest feedback, but also from people that really know what goes into it. Yeah, I think that's great. Good. In addition to your kids. All right, well, next we're gonna go to we're gonna go from animation to Marty Supreme. What a great, amazing film. And Bianca, we're so happy to have you here. Can we
Thank you so
all
much.
compliment you on your outfit as the costume designer?
Thank you.
Definitely. So, as Roger mentioned, it's been nominated for so many awards. You must be thrilled for the success of this little film out of nowhere that is just
Little big film.
little big film.
Yeah, it started small and it grew and grew and grew. So over the years, yeah.
Well, tell us how it was working as a costume designer, and in particular, I read that you sourced and designed thousands of garments for this film. So many, in fact, that they're housed in a 30,000-foot square warehouse. Like, how do you and your team, how do you handle that? I wouldn't be able to do that.
Well, yeah, I mean, we had a lot of costumes for this film. There was a lot of people. I think the first background breakdown I had was over 9,000 people, and just for background. And of course, we had to eliminate some people, but because it's just too big to dress that many people, just is it's a feat. You know, it's kind of hard to even wrap your mind around. Also, just in terms of logistically, how do you know, how many bodies does it take to even dress that many? How many fittings do we need to have before? Because it is 1952, so everyone needs to be pre-fit. Right. So I had an incredible team. I mean, that's kind of, you have to have a big team to dress that many
Like
people.
how many people? What's big?
I think on a big day where we had thousands of people, for example, Wembley, I don't know how many people have seen this film at this point, but we have a few really large scenes. Mm-hmm. Wembley being one of them, which is the big table tennis kind of championship in London game. And that one, I think we had thousands of people there. So, yeah, I think on a big day like that would be about 50 on my team, yeah.
And you know, it's funny because when you watch a film, you're so focused on the main characters, you forget about all the people all the extras, all the people watching, and yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, when you have your team, is it the same people that you've worked with? Because I know you've worked with the Safdies before. So are many of the people that did costumes people you had worked with maybe on Uncut Gems or Good Time? Or
there were some, although, you know, Uncut Gems was much smaller of a film. So I think, you know, and that was about 6 years ago now. And so maybe over 7 years. But yeah, so we're from Gems, but a lot of new people too.
And how closely do you work with the hair and makeup people? How closely do you work with casting?
Well, I will say, just starting with casting, Jen Vendetti, who's the casting director, she's incredible, and her and I have been working together since Good Time. I mean, so it's Good Time, Uncut Gems, and now Marty Supreme, but her and I work very closely together just because as soon as someone's cast, or, you know, Josh, Jen, and I are on a group chat, as soon as someone's cast, I see, and that helps inform my work in terms of figuring out who that person is and how we want to show them in this film and their character. So it's a very exciting time. You know, the casting process is very informative for me.
And sorry to interrupt, but before we move off casting,
Yeah.
I just have to give a shout out to Jen, the casting director.
Yeah.
She's known for street casting. Mm-hmm. Can you tell us about that? I think it's fascinating, and what kind of mind is able to just have that? She must have an incredible memory.
She has well, yes, but I think she just has this incredible vision. I think she can see something in people that, you know, your normal eye couldn't see, I think, and that's kind of her specialty. She really, you know, she loves just real people and faces and people that aren't like aesthetically beautiful people, or just if they're interesting by just, you know, certain features. It doesn't even have to be features. It could just be something that they do that catches her. And so that's something that we like to highlight in her, and we all talk about when casting and then putting it into their character. And then, you know, it's part of the process too, because then someone could inspire even parts of the script or like parts of how we want to change their character. You know, she could find someone, or Josh will have an idea about a character, and then she'll find someone who's like, oh my God, we need to do, you know, like, this person's amazing. Let's do something. I'm trying to think of someone in specific,
That's so cool. And that the director's so open to that and to be so open. Now talk about working, sorry to cut you off,
no.
hair and makeup.
Hair and makeup. I mean, I think that's also too, I was able to work with Kay and Kira, who's both hair and makeup. Kay Giorgio did hair, and Kira Pachenko did makeup. And Kira and I have worked together on Gems. So her and I, she did a lot of Marty. But
So do we have Kay or Kira to not thank for that stubble that Timothy Chalamet wore all last year?
oh yeah, that's Kira. Yeah.
That was crazy. You
Yeah.
were like, what? Do you think that looks good? But I knew it was for the role.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, too, we all work together within the casting process. There's so many extras, but we all really care about background. And so that was something that was really important. A lot of times through the process, Josh would want Kira, Kay, and I to look through all of the pages of background of people to make sure that they had vintage faces, because it is 1952. Right. And so like all three of us, you know, we would have to go through kind of the list and the faces just to be sure that they had, I mean, it's interesting when you think about what makes a face contemporary and what has changed within a face to make them look contemporary. Even if it's like subtle things. With men, it's like a shaved head, you know, and he's like, we can't do it, you know? Right. And yeah, so.
Or eyebrows.
Or eyebrows, cosmetic, you know, everything, you know, he's.
Well, now I appreciate it more.
Yeah.
So talk to us about Gwyneth Paltrow, because she hadn't been on screen for many years. So tell us about dressing her, and were there any challenges?
I mean, I think my greatest challenge with Gwyneth, she's such an incredible person, was that she looked good in everything. And I think she's been in so many, she's had so many iconic looks in previous films that I think, you know, there was a lot there. I really wanted to make sure I didn't do it right. This is her first film in about 20 years. Yeah, and
That's
so
amazing.
She was just as excited and nervous, and you know, as I was, and so we worked together really well. Actually, she loved everything that we, you know, put together, you know. So we had a really great relationship.
That must be fun, though, to dress someone that's so open, but yet looks so good in everything.
Yeah,
She just looked great in everything.
yeah.
That's so great. All right, well, now we're going to switch to sound. So, Laia Casanovas.
Hi.
If you haven't had a chance to see Surat, let's see. It's pretty amazing, but I want to, if you wouldn't mind, will you just give like one or two sentences on what the film is about? Because unlike Zootopia and Marty Supreme, I think this requires a little bit of explanation.
Well, Sirat, it's a story of a father and his son searching for his daughter. And I think it's an emotional journey. It's a movie that talks about life and death and grieving. And if anyone didn't see the film, I recommend to watch it in a theater and live that experience.
I couldn't agree more. And just to, when the film opens and you see the father and the son, and the father is played by this incredible actor,
Sergio Lopez.
Sergio Lopez. And his great son, who's just, you see it all in this kid's face. And they have flyers, and they're handing out these flyers. Have you seen her? Have you seen her? Because his daughter and the sister of the young boy was last seen at a rave party. So they're trying to find her. It had been months, I think, since they had seen her. So it starts off with this. But along with them trying to find this girl is a 17-minute rave sequence where you see the music, this pounding techno music, and that's how the film opens. So from a sound perspective, talk to us about that, and whose idea was that, and how involved were you in that opening part?
Well, it was difficult to find the balance in that 17 minutes of the rave scenes. Oliver is a filmmaker that comes from a school of documentary kind of cinema, and they made a real rave to shoot all that scenes, and there was a deal with the ravers that make the rave that it was forbidden to stop the music for the shooting. So that's why the images have that kind of truth, because they are actual real ravers raving, and that was a challenge for the sound also, because we needed to recreate all the sound of the rave scenes with the music of Candice Ray that he composed for the film. And it was difficult to find how treat all the sound of the raves, because it's incredible to hear and listen all the recordings that Amanda did in the shooting, because being in a dance floor, it's like a ritual. All the ravers are in front of the speakers, and it's all about the music and your inner world. They are inside them, and we wanted to have that in the film, that kind of inner world of the ravers, and also the dance floor, it's for dancing,
Right.
and to live a journey, an inner journey. And we were how we can convey that concept in the movie, and also introduce the character of Luis, that he's a stranger in the free parties. And we did, to have the same truth of the images, we record a playback of all the music of Candice Ray through a sound system like the one of the movie, to bring it to the world, the sound, and have the same truth that the production sound has. And
they're giant speakers.
yes,
They're
and
giant.
also there are homemade speakers, are handmade speakers. They have a special fingerprint in the sound,
Right.
and we wanted to have that in the film.
Yeah, it's one of the most remarkable opening sequences, and as Laia was saying about the ravers, it's almost like a primal, everyone's dancing just in their own head. They're not dancing with each other, it's not orchestrated, it's just very personal, and you just watch this, it's amazing.
But also it's a community ritual, because
They're real ravers. These are not actors, professional actors, no dancers. These are real people that they recruited in. Is that right?
yeah.
Now, you mentioned Oliver Lax, the director. Had you worked with him before?
No, it's the first time that I work with Oliver. Amanda, the production sound mixer, she worked with Oliver in her first films. I started working in the project because I worked several times with one of the producers, and he told me that you have to meet Oliver. I think that you're gonna match, and you're gonna love it. That sound of that movie, because it's very special.
Now, I'm fascinated how you got into sound. Was this something that you set out and studied? Did you fall into this? We have so many different people, directors and producers and writers and costume designers. How did you find sound, or it found you?
I will say that it found me, but if I think about my past, I think that it was always there. It's difficult for me because I started studying cinema at the college, and there is where I found what was the sound design in a film. I didn't know what the sound designers do, or I just love cinema and start studying cinema. And when I knew what the sound designers what was the work of the sound designers. I love it, and I'm so passionate with all the sound design process. But if I look at the past, I studied music since I was a kid, and also when I was a kid, I played a lot with recordings with my computer. I recorded something and thought about the stories with the sound. So it was there. It was cool to find the sound design process at the college because it was always there.
I think that's so I think it's fascinating. Last question. You had mentioned Candy Gray, the composer. Talk to us a little bit about, because music is so much a part of this journey and this techno score. How was it working with him?
We worked very close because it was inspiring to have the music and convey all the emotions that the music has, all the sonic of the film. Also because the rave characters are very connected to the sound through the music, and we wanted to have the same texture in the music, in the image, and also the sound. And we were very close to find the suitable sound in the music and also in the sound, and merge all the layers, because we wanted that when you are watching the film, you don't realize exactly when the music starts and when the sound starts, and find that mesmerizing and hypnotic in the sound and also in the film, and also the first time that I met Oliver, he was with David also, with Candy Gray, and the three of us were talking about the concept of the movie, the texture of the sound, all the ideas that we had about the script, and it was so enriching process to work, the three of us.
Well, I encourage those that haven't seen it to check it out and turn it loud. Turn it up loud.
Yes.
So speaking of sound, Elisa, I must talk to you about your documentary, The Perfect Neighbor.
Okay, yes.
Yes, because, and we'll get into this, one of the questions, of course, is about sound and how important that was in your documentary. But first, talk to us, for those that haven't seen The Perfect Neighbor, tell us just a little bit about it and how it came to you and made you decide, I have to do this.
So first I want to thank Santa Barbara International Film Festival for having me. And I'm so happy that you all are here. I'm like at 11 o'clock in the morning. Thank you for being here. So The Perfect Neighbor is a documentary, as you said. It is primarily at its center about this beautiful, multiracial, multi-generational community that is devastated by the violent actions of one outlier who kills her neighbor because children are playing in a field next to her house and she objects to that. We made this film independently. When I say independent, I mean independent. We put our own money, none of us took any fees, et cetera. It was so important for us to do it because our director, Geeta, it was her family member by marriage who was the best friend of the victim. And so I remember where I was in my house when I got the call. It was a Friday night, the next day after it happened. I was sitting in my favorite armchair doing work on another project and got the call that this happened. And we all said, okay, what can we do? Let's get down there. And her husband, who's also a producer, Nakan Kwantu, went down to start filming. You know, it happened in Florida. And so Florida, unfortunately, had a precedent of Trayvon Martin getting killed by George Zimmerman and getting off because of stand your ground laws. And so what we decided to do, because Susan, the perpetrator, had not been arrested for 4 days, was to go down there and film and keep this in the news. So we served initially as their media contact, right? We started furnishing clips, et cetera. And then months later, we got a thumb drive from the family attorney that had all of the times that Susan called the police because she was premeditating this defense, right? She knew, she had looked it up, she knew the language, and she had been premeditating it, so she called the police so many times, and because they had body cam footage, we got access to that. And when we saw it, we were like, wait, this could be a film. And so we decided to make it the way we made it. If you haven't seen it, it really plays like a scripted thriller, because a lot of people don't, I know not you all, but when people hear documentary, they're not excited to watch. And so we made it like a scripted thriller because we wanted all sorts of people who had never come to it to see it and see the harmful effects of stand your ground and gun laws in America. And I'm so thankful that thank you. And I'm so thankful and pleased that it was so well, it's on Netflix, and it was so well received. SNL spoofed us, and we were like, oh my gosh, we made it. You know what? We didn't know how they were gonna do it. We heard that it was gonna happen, and we're like, well, how are they gonna do that? But they did a good, tasteful job, and I'm just so happy that through these actions that people now get to see in real time, undeniably, because it's through police body cam footage and we were not on the ground directing shots, how people, family members are impacted by violence in America.
Right. Well, that's what makes it so fascinating is you're watching this body cam footage and getting back to sound, for example, and usually that's kind of raw and crackly and
It is.
all that. And tell us about how you made it so that...
Oh, listen, I always say this is one of the most emotionally challenging films I've ever done and one of the most technically challenging. I'm like, that's a rot sound, you know, pants off to you, skirts off to you. You know, a police body cam footage, we never think about it. It is very basic technology, right? It's above their vest. They click it on and off like that. So if you watch the movie, sometimes they know they're treading into dangerous territory. Like one of the police officers about Susan says, what a effing beat, and it stops, right? She knows, like she's like, I can't say that. So they click it on and off, so that has its own sound challenges. The police, when they're called, they do a lot of meandering. They are walking around up and down. We're like, why are they walking so much? They have a mono mic that picks up everything. They also have a walkie-talkie on them. So if you're thinking about it, not only is it hearing what the person is saying, it's not only hearing what the person that they're interacting is saying, but it's getting the walkie-talkie that's so loud and imposing. And it's also getting the crunching of their feet as they walk around nonstop. And it picks up other sounds. So for us to sync the sound, our director Geeta was an editor, and she always says that she became the AE on it because we had no money. And so for us, we had to really, it wasn't, you can imagine that the police did not lay this out nicely for us. So to get it all, figure out which mic went with what, which police officer, it was a major feat that we had to get over.
But even though the police, but they did cooperate a little bit. Like, I think they were kind of rooting for you because this woman was just so horrible.
Well, you know, it's Florida, and I said, Florida got some things right in this case. I will say this, right? We often joke that the police must have known we were about to make a film. They had no idea when the family lawyer asked to release this what it was. And really, they just wanted us to look at it to see if there was anything else we could give to the media. And so the police gave it over. They feel like it's accurate because we didn't do much to it. We made it, like I said, into a thriller. The sheriff of the police department said, you know, this is what happened. I will say, though, and I always say this because it's important to say, that the police in this come off to some people, depending on your perspective, they're not guns blazing. They're young people who seem really amicable and nice, most of them. There are some of them that are pills and aggressive. But, you know, I always remind that even though they were not aggressive, did not come guns blazing, they allowed the worst possible outcome to happen because Susan, who was the perpetrator, knew that there was a black woman on the other side and she weaponized her privilege. And she knew exactly the words to get it done and they allowed her to do it. There's a point, thank you. There's a point, and I'm telling you, this should sell it for you. There's a point, and I thought this is where Saturday Night Live was gonna spoof. She's getting interrogated. She finally finds out now that after 4 days, they let her walk around. She's like, here, I'll give you my keys. You can lock the door for my cat. She's saying all this stuff. And they finally say, you have to go with us. You're getting arrested. And she says, no, I'm not getting up. And they negotiate her for 4 minutes, and we leave it in that way. And they're like, Susan, they're talking to her like a kindergartner. Susan, you know, your choices aren't right. And, you know, there's a whole negotiation. And we kept it in there because that was really indicative of how they handled her. They handled her with kid gloves, though she murdered a mother of 4 on the other side.
Oh my God. So 2 more questions. How was it? I mean, I'm sure it was horrific. You had to watch all this footage. Your whole team did. I mean, that had to be very challenging emotionally. And how did you handle that and then live your life?
Yeah, it's so hard. I say that as a producer on this, one of my jobs is chief emotions officers, right? So I always, you know, one, we were stunned by everything that was in there. And we thought of the audience and we made sure to not show you like her dying. So if you're worried about that, you're not seeing Ajika's blood. She's still alive in the piece. They find out by announcement that she has passed. It's difficult. I'm a Black woman myself. I'm a mother of 2 children that are in college. She has 4 young children. I can't imagine. I don't want to imagine. And on the other side of it is her mother, Pamela Diaz, who gets the phone call that her daughter is killed, and they are so close, and has to leave her life in Georgia after she just quit her job in corporate America to live her dream job and do the first thing on her bucket list as a retiree, become a flight attendant for Delta, was doing that for 6 months and got the call. And it was only respectful. We really think about doing no harm with our films, to say to Pam, hey, is this what you want to do? Because she's not thinking about this. Geeta, our director, always jokes that we only have a few skills. Like, I'm not talented in a traditional way, but I can organize some things, right? And so we say to Pam, is this something that you want to do? And she says yes, but then we show her the film. And she didn't realize, she sees her daughter alive. She has a very visceral reaction to it. We showed the film to the community, same thing. After she watched it a second time, she said she absolutely wants people to see it because she wants people to not just say, okay, well, gun violence is terrible, but to really sit with it and then take action, right? And so I had to keep thinking about Pam, that if she can sit there and do this, then I have no excuse, right? It's heavy for me to talk about it, but I have to keep going. And she always says that she takes, she reminded me of this when I first really started to get to know her. I said, Pam, you are in the legacy of Mamie Till, which is Emmett Till's mom. You know, Mamie Till, Mamie Till, during the civil rights era, wanted everyone to see what happened to her child, Emmett Till, who was essentially lynched in the South when he went to visit. And Pam is doing the same thing.
Right.
One of the last conversations that her daughter had with her daughter was a single mom of 4. She wanted more for herself. And she said to her mother, you know, I have this entrepreneurial exploit. And her mom's like, okay, darling, you know, I did that to my daughter. Okay, sweetheart, okay. And she said, Mom, you laugh at me, but one day the world is gonna know my name. And so in her grief, in our grief, because we do consider this grief work, we are close to her best friend, but we're also close now to her family. We want to make sure that that is fulfilled, that the world knows her name, and that her legacy is that we will stop stand your ground in harmful policies.
Amazing. Great job. And so happy. And also, you know, shout out to Netflix for making this so available so many people can see it.
Yeah.
There's something to be said for that. And
we are so proud that we were with Netflix. We're so happy to them. And I also want to say that, you know, Netflix, we gave them money in documentary. You know, it's similar to journalism, right? They want you to have integrity. We don't pay people for their stories. But in this case, we could not, you know, take a fee and then have the family, these children not have have college funds. And Netflix was with us when we said, we are going to give them the money from the sale. And so I'm so happy that we did that. And we were #1 and beat some big celebrity names. There's casting people, so I won't say names. But we beat some big celebrity names and was #1 in 40 countries for a week when we launched. So thank you to Netflix for that as well.
Yeah. That restores my faith in a little bit, so that's good.
We hope that we're going to change the industry. We're all doing, these women up here doing such great work, and we hope
Everybody, that's exactly right.
that all of this work up here is going to change who gets to the table, what stories are being purchased, et cetera. So thank you.
And the one common thing is that resilience, you know, like you see something and it doesn't matter, you know, you're going to have challenges, things are going to happen, but everybody gets back and you know, what's next? There's always going to be another film.
When I'm doing a talk to second graders usually, and they're the hardest moderators, and listen, they'll give you like questions in 3 parts that you can never remember. They say, well, but what does a producer really do? And I say, well, I'm the mom of everybody in the credits. And they understand that because of resilience and everything
Right, right.
Right?
So true. That is really true. Well, now, since we're talking about producers, Ashley, how many people saw Train Dreams? All right. Everybody here on the panel, do you have a chance to see it? If not, must see. It's great. But I would encourage, saw it 2 times. So did I, and it's one of these that you notice so many things more the second time. But I would encourage people, I don't know, I guess see it however you can, but maybe not on an airplane or not on your computer, because the vistas and the scope is just so beautiful. So congratulations to you and all the producers that worked with this and got this thing made. I read it took 10 years. Is that right?
Yes, that is correct. I read the novella in December of 2015, and we optioned it in 2016. And it was a windy, long journey. But that's, I think all of these women here understand that the good ones, they take their time, but they find their way. And I think that there was, even with the setbacks and the long circuitous route that we took, the film found all the people that were meant for it, and I'm so happy it happened this way.
So you kind of talked about the novella, but let's go back to that for just a second. Dennis Johnson.
Yes.
Did you know him? Had you read him? Who got it to you? Immediately, did you think this will make a great film? Just tell us a little bit more about that.
I mean, I love Dennis Johnson more than anything, but if anyone here has read the novella, it's probably the least likely adaptation into a film. A friend called me about it. I had just started running a company, Kamala at the time, and I called asking about the project because I thought we had it. And I didn't know anything about it. I called Marissa, and she had said she had optioned it a while back, but it had lapsed, and asked if I had read it. And I had read Jesus' Son and Tree of Smoke, which are 2 of his other unbelievable works of fiction. And so I went back and read Train Dreams. And I don't get to experience the film the way you all do because I've watched it now 100 times and in the edit and everything. But I think when I read the novella for the first time, it washed over me and it stayed with me. And I couldn't, to the point where I couldn't get it out of my head. I was like, okay, this is some of the most beautiful prose I've ever read, but then how do I make it into a film? And I think there was a personal piece for me in it. I had a family member, someone close to me, die in a fire a long time ago. And I think that just the way that Dennis Johnson writes about ordinary lives, but also in the way that every life is extraordinary, and grief and love and like loss, and it just encompassed all of these big ideas. And so I went back to Marissa and I said, I think we should try to do this. I'd love to go back and option this. Just know it's not going to be fast or easy.
Right, definitely. And then how did Clint Bentley, the director, come into this?
So we had been, we had this, we had had this project for some time and script and whatnot, and had been on the search for the right filmmaker, because it really is what unlocks, these projects, especially something like Train Dreams. You need a real author. And we were in the midst of the pandemic. And so I don't know about everyone here, but it was a really hard time. We were all in lockdown, and Sundance was coming up, and it was all, obviously all virtual. And I was so excited just to dive into films and kind of live in those other worlds and not in the reality that we were living in. And I'd seen the log line for Jockey, which is Clint's first film, and if anyone hasn't seen it, really urge you to see it. It's so stunningly beautiful. And I watched Jockey, and the moment that it was over, I was like, he's the one. And so I, immediately sent him the submission, the script, actually got a pass email back, but then asked for a general meeting. And so several weeks later, I met with him and Greg, his writing partner, on Zoom, because we're in the midst of the pandemic. And we were having this lovely conversation. And I said, listen, we don't need to harp on it, but I always think it's really educational as a producer, not just to understand why someone is connected to material, but what isn't working, or like what didn't work for you in the script. And Clint was really thoughtful. Like, they had both read the script, and he was like, hey, who am I to tell you what to do with this beautiful script? And Dennis Johnson, in the writer's world, he's like, the kind of at the very top. And I said, well, what if there are no rules? Like, what would you want to do? And so we got into it, and we started digging in and started talking about it. And so by the end of the general meeting, Greg had never read the novella. Clint was going to go back to it. And it was just this conversation of unlocking the way that he could see his vision into the story. And so it was a really beautiful journey. Ever since there, then it was just the developing of the script. And then when we got to casting, the moment Joel signed on, the only thing that slowed us down after Joel signing on were the strikes.
Were the strikes. Now, when Joel signed on, was that early in the process? Was he one of the first to sign on, or one of the last to sign on?
No. I mean, once we had the script, and it was a really beautiful process developing that script with Clint and Greg. They're such thoughtful writers. They had gone up to the Moyet Valley in Idaho and Washington, like where we ended up actually filming the movie. But they went up there in the writing process because they wanted to get to, even though this is a period film, we talked a lot about making sure that the film felt resonant to today and wanting it to feel timeless. And so they wanted to go up there and understand the people, understand the feeling of the land, the nature, that community. And so they went and did that. But once we had developed this like beautiful script, and then it was figuring out who's going to play Robert, because Robert Grenier is the backbone of the entire movie. The entire movie rests on Joel's shoulders. I mean, there's barely a scene without him in it. And so when we submitted to him, normally you give an actor 2 to 3 weeks to read. It's this whole process. And I think I got a call back the next day that the manager loved it. And then before the weekend was even over, Clint called me and he said, hey, Joel messaged me on Instagram, and I'm going to fly to Chicago. And like they had already started talking, and you just, when you feel that excitement where I think everyone here knows when like a piece comes together that's really going to help the film get going, because like Elise's film, like we were making this truly independently. This is, Netflix has been an incredible partner on the other side after we made it and acquiring it at Sundance. But when we made this film, when we were developing this was all completely independent.
I bet you were like, we're just going to do this film because we have to. And then how great when it found its audience and found its distributor and had a budget, everything.
Yeah, no, it's been an incredible journey, and to have it connect with so many people has just been incredible.
So I want to go back to, you mentioned about the Pacific Northwest and about how Clint and Greg went up there and kind of got into nature and so forth, because it's like a character in the film. What about for you? When you were shooting it, did you feel this connection with your surroundings and realize there was something incredibly special and almost prehistoric about being there?
Oh, yes. I mean, I've always been connected to nature. And so, obviously there are challenges that come with shooting a movie that's predominantly outside. But rather than being on a sound stage for 30 days, to be out there in nature and we got to scout some of the most beautiful forests in the state of Washington and spending time in these beautiful nature-filled places. There was one time when we were shooting up near the Canadian border and you could see the northern lights. And so I think for everyone, it was this incredible experience to make a film in this very analog way in nature.
Right, analog, that's right, it was very analog. I want to go back to something that Elisa was talking about, which is the role of a producer. So when you think about hiring the crew, casting, pre and post, developing the script, all those, the budget, all of those various hats that you have to wear, and it's many, many hats, do you have a favorite part of this process? What's your favorite and what's your least favorite part, and why?
I mean, I think the part about being a producer that's so amazing is that every day is different. You get to use all these different parts of your brain. You know, there's the creative, like purely creative aspects when you're ideating and working on story, casting, and then there's the other parts where it's the jigsaw puzzle about figuring out the budget and how are we going to shoot this epic movie in 29 days, you know, and how are we going to make fire look real and authentic, you know, on this small budget. And so I think that's what drives me, is like, it's always like these constraints that you're given, how do you use them to make something more interesting?
And as you look back on this, as you look back on the Train Dreams journey, well, I didn't mean to have a, but as you look back on Train Dreams, do you, and you all get together as a team, do you realize the specialness of that experience, and it still carries with each of you today? I would think it's one of those, not a one and done.
Oh, definitely. I mean, it's such a special experience to make a film like this. Like, it's not lost on me, you know, that we got to make this film in general. You know, there are a lot of people, even dear friends of mine, who are like, good luck. And like, I think they thought it might never get made. And so I think we had so many incredible artists, all of our heads of department, but down to like the PAs. I mean, this one really took a village. And so for every single person who touched this film should be so proud of what we've been able to put out there in the world.
That's great. Amazing. So Natalie has a film, Two People Exchanging Saliva. I think probably the best title. I saved the best title for last, right? Yeah. And writer and director both on this film. And I want you to tell, it's a short, so give us just like the quick log line for those that might not have had a chance to see it.
Sure.
Can't wait to hear how you describe this film.
So it is an absurdist love story set in a world where people pay for things by being slapped in the face. And kissing is illegal and punishable by death. So it is...
and not just any death.
No, not just any death. If you are caught kissing, you are put into a cardboard box, and the box is driven to a ravine in the outskirts of Paris, and the box is thrown into this ravine where most people plummet to their deaths. Yeah.
I mean, imagine this pitch meeting.
Oh yeah, no, it's crazy. I mean, I come from the visual arts, and I've always wanted to make films. I made this film with my partner, and the whole thing kind of emerged from a constraint, which was, you know, we didn't have any contacts in the film industry, we didn't go to film school, and we were always trying to find a way to make a film. And we had started this we had been invited by this museum in Paris, the Louvre, to make a film in the museum. Yeah.
Oh, that museum?
You might have heard of it. And this is a long story, because basically we didn't end up making that film. The Louvre sent us a very intimidating contract that basically said if they didn't like the film that we made in the museum, it would never see the light of day, we wouldn't control it. And we were very sad and felt quite ridiculous saying no to this grand institution. And then we were asked by this luxury department store in Paris, would we like to shoot a film there? Carte blanche, we can do whatever we want. And in the Zoom meeting, we were like, well, this is such an incredible space to be given access to, but it's such a loaded space because it's the intersection of power and money and class and beauty and desire. And you know, we were like, well, it's really important for us to subvert this space. And in the Zoom meeting, we're just throwing ideas back and forth, and we throw out, what if we said in a world where people paid for things by being slapped in the face? And you know, it was one of those moments where everyone took a breath, and then chuckled a bit, and a very nervous laughter. And to their credit, they didn't say no. And they sort of.
But they didn't say yes.
Well, they told us to write the script and come back to them. And so we wrote the script so fast. I mean, first of all, the invitation was to make a 3 to 4 minute film. We made a 36-minute film. But it was important to us, if we were going to do this, we wanted to tell a complete story. Like, jokes aside, like we wanted to tell a story with a beginning, middle, and end, where we had these characters really like go on a journey. And so, we wrote the script, and at the time, this is late 2022, early 2023, there were so many things like today that were happening in the world that were so horrific. And we just felt like, if you open up Instagram, for instance, in 1 second, you'll see a video of like civil unrest, social unrest. There are so many things that are happening in the world, in the US, abroad, that are horrific. And then the next thing will be an advertisement for a luxury handbag. And the confluence of these things being side by side just felt like, I don't know, I feel like we're living in a time where violence has become really normalized in a horrific way. And so it was important, so that sort of fed into the script. And at the same time, there was the women's movement in Iran. And talk about like the last 3 years, like nothing's really changed. Today, the protests that are happening in Iran, have been going on for many years now. And we just thought, like, we're looking at these young people being shot at because they're demanding very normal civil rights. And we just thought, like, our world is so absurd, and there are so many things that are happening in our world that we accept as normal, or even if we don't accept them, when we go out there on the streets, they are a part of our reality. And so we wanted to twist the rules of our world to sort of like reflect back the absurdity of our world. And that's how,
And I want to go back to the 36 minutes. Was that a challenge to tell this story in that? And how do you determine 36?
I mean, because we don't come from the film industry, we didn't know when we were making it that making 36-minute film is like neither here nor there. We're like, not really a short, not really a feature. I mean, definitely not a feature. And so, but we approached it with so much sincerity, and we were just trying to make the best thing we possibly could with the means that we had. And what we knew was that we had this access to this space, and we had this incredible cast that sort of signed on because they saw the parallels between like the rise of autocracies around the world more and more these days, and this, very on its surface ridiculous script, but at its heart, like, we're living in a moment where like the ridiculous and the horrific have never been closer. And so they saw that.
That's a very true statement. Scary to think about it. So you mentioned casting. The film is predominantly a female cast and narrated by the incredible Vicky Krieps. How did she come into it, and how involved were you and Alex in the casting?
We wrote the script with particular people in mind. So Vicky Vicky plays our narrator, and the narrator is someone that like gives you no important piece of information, really. It's there for tonality, because the film has this like very fine line between, almost like a comedic element, but also a horrific element. And so the narrator there is kind of like guiding you tonally. And she was just really, we've been a fan of her since The Phantom Thread, and we wanted someone that, the whole cast is made up of French speakers that are not actually natively French. So our main two actresses are Zara Mir, who's an Iranian actress, and the other one is Luana Bajrami, who's from Kosovo. And we are not, my partner is from France, but he is half French, half Indian. I'm Romanian American. Our producers are from Argentina and Italy. So it was a really, really international production. And we feel like, that is the heart of both contemporary France, but also the US. That is what's beautiful about this moment is, yeah. And so Czar in particular was someone that we wrote the script, kind of for, not thinking she would ever say yes, but I don't know how many people are familiar with her work, but she is best known for a film called Holy Spider, which is a film by Ali Abbasi, in which she plays this journalist who is sort of like going after a serial killer of women in Iran. And we just thought her performance was so incredible, but in particular, her life story is incredible, which is that she was a very well-known actress in Iran, and one day her ex released an intimate tape of hers, and you can imagine how horrific that would be anywhere in the world, but in Iran she was interrogated, imprisoned, put on trial, and she was about to be sentenced to many, many years in prison, and she fled the country, and she's been living in France in exile ever since. And we just thought that the parallels between our film, which is a film about repression and love being forbidden, and her own life story, that there were so many intersections, that she would bring so much to the role. And she did. She immediately saw it and signed on from the very beginning. So we were very lucky.
And you would have loved the clothes.
Yeah.
The clothes were also like a character in the film, not just because it was set in the department store, but because she pulled it off.
Yeah, no, our costume designer is also from Iran, Razan Farsajani, and she actually has been in Iran these last few weeks during the protests. She just left the country yesterday, so we're so relieved that she got out. But she was actually, there's a photograph of her in this mass of people wearing black, and she, a costume designer, is wearing leopard and heels. Which really, yeah, it's just who she is.
Great.
But she designed this iconic black and white dress in the film, which is almost like a character. And no one knows this but our own team, because it's a very abstract dress. But the dress is inscribed with a message, which is woman, life, freedom.
Wow.
And because
In the geometric squares?
yeah, in the geometric squares. So it's, at first we thought, what if it was a barcode that people, but that became very complicated. And so in the end, it's not something that viewers know, but because Czar is from Iran, Razvan is from Iran, and the sort of part of the inspiration for the film was the absurdity of what is happening to women there. We felt it was important to us.
And last question, the title. Was it you that thought of the title? Was it your first choice? Was it Alex?
It's a line in the film, not an exact line, but there's a moment where this ancillary character says, "two adolescents exchanging saliva." And it wasn't the first title, but when we found it, we felt very strongly about it. And in part, it was like a response to our first short, which had a very general title, unfortunately.
The Appointment?
Yeah, and you can imagine there are a million films called The Appointment out there. And so when we landed on two people exchanging saliva, we just thought that it not only is original, there are no other films out there with that title, but it represents the tonality of the film, which on the one hand, is describing one of the most beautiful things in the world, kissing, and on the other hand is absurd in its like almost clinical description. And so we fought for it. Our producers are like, it's very nice in English, but in French it's so ugly. And then all of our American friends were like, it sounds great in French, but it's really ugly in English. And we just really stuck to our guns, and it was actually Vicky who was responsible for it being there, because we were talking about all of our different ideas, and we mentioned this one, and she goes, "Wow, if I saw that in a festival program, I would want to see that film." And then she was like, "You know what? I would want to be in that film." And our producer, who was standing there, was like, "Vicky, it's good because you are in that film." And that's how it stuck.
That's so great. But you should see what happens when you Google it. What comes up?
Oh my God.
I was like, is this the short? Oh, well. But I want to just take a minute before we go into the to our famous round robin, and can we just give all of these women just it's really great. I just don't think we've ever had such an eclectic group of women. It's just fascinating. And every story is so different and great. So, okay, so now what we do, we switch gears a little bit and we just talk about just things in life. Everyone's got a deep dive into each of these incredible films and shorts and semi-short, we'll call it a semi-short, and documentaries. And now let's just talk about life and how it is just getting through the days. Okay, so I'm gonna start with Yvette. Yvette, is there one topic that you know more about than anybody else on this panel? What would it be? Other than being a great producer or animation.
Oh, I was gonna say animation. You know, I grew up playing, oh, you know what? I went to school here at UC Santa Barbara.
All right.
Oh, Gauchos.
Yeah.
So I wanna say Santa Barbara.
Santa Barbara. And so you know all the little nooks and crannies and the best places. You need to tell me the best places for coffee, because my usual place is now so popular, there's like a line around the block. So I need your help.
I'll have to look that up.
All right, you have to do that. Okay, Elisa, I want you to ask, what's the most difficult habit that you've ever had to break?
I'm still trying. I am a night owl. I never sleep. And I just turned 50 on Tuesday, and thank you.
Happy birthday.
And I went to the salon to get a massage, and after this beautiful, gorgeous, blonde 20-something-year-old says to me, well, you know, you really have deep, deep, deep crow's feet. How's your
She
sleep?
said that?
Yes. And then she said, you have to get this serum that was a lot of money and, and you know, all that part. And I was like, okay. And then I was like, she's like, how are you sleeping? I was like, I'll sleep when I die. I really am working hard, but I've been trying. The other night, so after I got back from that, I went to Arizona. That night, after she told me that, I went to bed at 8 p.m.
Wow, I love it. But now, did you get up at like 1?
3.
3, yeah, that's the bad thing when you go to bed early.
Yeah.
Anybody else here have issues with sleep? Yeah. Anybody here doesn't have an issue with sleep? And what do you take?
But I have to break, the part that I did break is I stopped working, because I would work up until the minute.
Right.
So I have stopped working, I'll just be up with my eyes wide open.
Yeah, okay, well, you know, at least you're not working. That's good. Anyway, that crow's feet person, don't go back there. No.
I told her those were warrior woman lines.
Yeah, that's good. I like that. That's really good. All right, Laya. What's the one thing you love most about sound, about what you do for a living?
I think that it's all the creative process that it's behind the sound, because it's pretty unknown what the sound can do to the audience, but it's a powerful weapon to convey emotions and make the audience feel all the emotions of the film. And I think that also what I love of my work, it's doing some recordings in weird places and know something, well, new things and living things that if I wasn't working with sound design, I never knew.
And do you have a Spotify playlist with all your music?
Since I work as sound designer, I didn't listen a lot of music because the only thing that I want when I arrive at home is silence. So
that's great. I love that. Where were you when you heard that you were nominated? And who told you?
I was home. I had missed it on TV because I was trying to figure out how to get it on the computer to watch it live.
Right.
And I guess I was one of the first ones up. And all of a sudden, as I'm trying to get Yes, I'm trying to figure out how to get it on live. All the texts started coming through. I think it was Josh, probably, was the first person that texted, Josh and Eli. Yeah.
That's great. But don't feel bad. No one can figure out how to get it live. You know, it used to be easy.
It's like 5 minutes in, and
It's
I'm
like 5 minutes in.
I'm like, I can't see. I just like texting someone, and then
Right.
it's too late, and then, you know. Yeah.
That's so great. And then it was your first phone call after Josh and people like, was a family member?
They weren't up yet because I was in New York. My family lives here. So, because it's 8:30 a.m. New
Right.
York time, 5:30. I remember I was waiting for my mom to wake up. She wouldn't wake up. She didn't get up until like 9 a.m. And I was texting her. I was like, why is she up? My brother called. But, you know, my mom didn't wake up.
Like, it's my most important day.
I know.
Get it together.
Honestly, it was probably Josh and Eli. We'd call each other, but we're close, so.
I think that's great. Natalie, is there a celebrity that you find attractive that you're so embarrassed you don't want to tell anybody?
Oh my God, that is such a good question. Oh my God, I mean, so many, but I don't know that I would be embarrassed. I mean, I don't know.
Well, have you met someone that, like, you were at one of these events or something and you're just like, oh my God, I just met so-and-so?
Well, I met Timothée Chalamet actually the other night, and I was like, wow, he's taller than I expected. So I mean,
Is that right?
I don't know. I mean, I think everyone's attractive.
Which is only fitting because it's two people exchanging saliva and you're short, so that's good. I like that. Let's see, what is, Ashley, biggest mistake that producers make? And maybe something that early on you said, you know what, I'm not gonna do that. Something you saw someone do.
I think the biggest mistake, maybe just assuming or pretending you know everything. If you don't know something, ask questions. You know, like you've amassed a team of really smart people doing what they do, and if there's something you don't know, ask them, ask a friend, ask a colleague. I think that's the best way to continue to grow and learn, is to always be curious and ask questions.
Yeah, I think that's good, good. And Elisa, social media, love it, hate it, what do you use, favorite app, worst app?
Oh, Lord. I do not. I remember one time I was making a film, a scripted film, and someone said, Elisa, you have to get on social media. If you don't, investors will not trust you. And then I was like, okay. So my daughter, who was like 7 at the time, put me on, and all of the pictures were like of her holding her American Doll, girl doll. And I was like, surely this is not helping anything. Right now, I'm such a private person. It's interesting. I was a biochemist before this, so I didn't get into this. So I've been like always insular in a lab and everything. I've never lived out in front life. I remember the first time I did a film, Between the World and Me, for HBO, and they asked me to do a recording of my process, and I was like, well, why would anybody want to see me? And so it's very hard for me to put myself out in that way, but now I've learned that I just tell the team to collaborate with me. So just you're gonna do a post that I'm gonna be on this thing, just make me a collaborator.
Right.
And that way, you know, and every now and then I'll say something, I'll rave about my kids or something.
That's good. So biochemist, and now you're the collab queen.
Yeah, the collab queen,
Collab
exactly.
queen, I like it. Hey, Yvette, I noticed, when I was reading about you, 25 years in this field, right? And you?
Yeah, almost 30, actually.
Almost 30. And you started off just as a team member, worked your way up quietly, maybe not so quietly, but with the same organization.
Yeah.
So how was it when you became the boss and not just the person that was there? Was that difficult for you to then start, suddenly you're the boss? And did people look at you differently, and how did that transition affect you?
I think it was a journey for me. I think my husband will tell me I have no problem being the boss, but you know, I started off as a temp employee, kind of filling in, working in the operations department, because I didn't really know what I wanted to do and where I fit in. And there's something special about Disney Animation, where we have this great community and there's great people, and people work there for years. And so I worked around like kind of an overhead capacity for many years, and then I got an opportunity to jump into production on a film which was Tangled. And I was able to kind of just really learn and be curious and really try to understand the process. And so from there, I kind of worked my way up to different roles. And then jumping into this role, the first film I produced was Encanto. And it was great because, again, I had worked there for so long, and I'd been working with people who had worked there so long, and the people there were very supportive. And again, I walked in like, I don't know everything. You all have to help me kind of do this, and you know, built a community around me, and that I could run to and be like, what's happening here? And they were kind of helping me through. So
Kind of like what Ashley was saying about you can't be afraid to ask and admit what you don't know.
yeah.
By the way, shout out, first Latina to ever be nominated for Encanto. That's right. Right? All right, Ashley, last question, which is if money were no object. So I'm going to take you back to, you know, your train dreams days, but now money's no object. You can make any film, any genre, about anybody. What would it be?
I think it's less about genre. I love all genres, whether, you know, it's like an action film or a biopic or, you know, like a grand love story. I think it's about films where it's like unlikely heroes or people who don't see themselves as heroes and then putting them in, you know, extraordinary situations.
Those are my favorite films too. Those are great. Well, now you're going to see some extraordinary work because we like, unlike other panels, we like to show the clips after you're familiar with the work. So you were in for a treat. And ladies, please turn around and you're going to see everybody else's work. And we're going to run the clips and you'll see a little bit from each film. All right, guys, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you again so much for being here. It means the world to me. And thank you to all the great women. We'll see you next year and enjoy the rest of the festival.